Welcome to the Miniatures Paintbrush. Today we're going to talk about painting up a long Fang's Lazgunner.
Hello everybody and welcome back. Today we're going to start off with black, and if you want to see this base coating for all my Space Wolves, I'm going to put a link to my base coating video up here so you can check that out if you want to. Alright, so we're going to start off with black. That's right. Model color black, that's after base coating, and what we're doing is getting in between the ceramite armor, and these are the flexible bits, and what we're trying to do is just coat everything in black that we need to get in black. Usually this is where I start. It's the base of my painting where I just darken in different areas. It gives me more definition and something to go by. There is that black. Now this time we're going to get black, and we're going to get model wash for dark vehicles, also Vallejo. If you didn't see that, I wanted to put that on the video for you to see. And what we're going to do is the panel lines. That's right, we're going to go into the dark recesses of the panel lines. If you are doing any kind of stormtroopers for Star Wars Legion or anything like that, panel lines, you know, are important and somewhat difficult to get to by most cases. But in this case, it's not as difficult when I'm mixing in the paint as well as that wash. That wash is a dream to get through. There are a lot of different ways to get to this result. This is just one. I've done pin washing with oil paints as well, and it had a very good effect as well. But I was just trying something new and trying that panel wash with the paint to see how well it does. And you'll be the judge for yourself when you actually get to see the model. Also, I went to a fine detail brush as well. This was a 0. And the reason why I wanted to do that, the panel lines on these things are tiny, so I wanted to get to it with that. Now notice that if you're using a brush that doesn't have a lot of bounce back to it, then usually the tip of that brush is going to curl. So if you have a lower quality hair and you notice curling right away at the tip of the brush, it's because, well, unfortunately that brush, for some reason, is not a great brush. It doesn't have any bounce back. The really great brushes you're going to see, you're going to use and use the tip. Now I'm not saying abuse the tip. You're going to try to want to avoid using the tip as much as possible, but when you're actually using the tip, you expect it to bounce back and want to bounce back on you. So here I use the tip, and then I switched over to a larger brush, and the larger brush is what you're going to do is just sop up the excess. A little bit like a 2-brush blending technique where I'm holding one brush and then the other one. But this is just for the accidents that happen. And if you can see here, the panel lines actually came out pretty well, in my opinion, and they are coming out well throughout. And I'll show you the rest of it in a bit. Also, I want to darken in that ceramite. I didn't think it was the between ceramite flexible armor. I didn't think it was that pronounced. So just giving some touch-ups, and you can see that right there. All the panel lines are done, and I think it looks pretty nifty. Alrighty. Using the word nifty, you know my age a little bit. Charred brown is next from Vallejo Game Color. And what I usually try to do with the gold in order to make a richer gold is that I try to paint all the places that I'm going to get gold into like a dark brown. Now you don't have to use charred brown per se, but using a brown as a bottom coat to your gold really makes the gold look rich and warm, as opposed to, I've never done a really cold gold, so to speak, so I would think maybe doing it over blue would be better. I'm not sure about that. I haven't tried it, and I might try it on another video. So yeah, I hit this gold piece right here after I do the charred brown as well. I don't want to forget all the details on the feet, and you notice that I'm using a pill bottle and only painting the legs right now, and I'm repeating any of the process that I do here on the rest of the miniature, which is in sub-assemblies. I do like to paint in sub-assemblies. It's just easier to reach, and I build it as I go, and I'll show you a little bit of that in this video, how I build things as I go. Alright, let's get into this gold. Now this gold is not just straight gold. This gold is a mixture. It's a mixture of gold from Vallejo metal color with Pale Burnt Metal, also from Vallejo Metal Color. If you're not using Vallejo Metal Color, start using Vallejo Metal Color. I mean, the only other equivalent would be something enamel or something like that, but as far as acrylic paint, water-based paint that you can mix with all your other miniature paints and plays well and nice on the playground, so to speak, you want to have Vallejo Metal Color. The quality is just top-notch. The pigment and the gold flecks that are in there are actually ground up so finely that they actually appear like real metal, and that's why I love these. I bought the entire range, although they don't come in a set. I bought them individually just because I wanted to play around with a lot of colors and play around with, you know, just putting different colors together. And I usually mix my gold with something else just to get a different effect, so I can get old gold or pink gold, or, you know, I'm always mixing it with something, and you could always find something new. The only bad thing about that is that if you are going to paint an army with a mixed color, you're going to want to write that down. That's right, start a little painting journal for yourself so you can keep tabs on what you did. Or you can do what I do and start a YouTube channel and video everything you did, plus keep a journal. But, you know, that's up to you. Love to see you around. All right, foundation white is the color that I use to start off my purity seals. That's right, I do foundation white, and I'm really sorry I'm covering it up with my hand. It's just the way I paint, the way the camera is, unfortunately. I'm trying something new with camera angles, so I'm really trying to get just what I can in the picture. All right, Mephiston red is what I use for the purity seal itself, and I'm trying to get all the corners. Sorry for the start transition, because my hand kind of got in the way of it. And again, that's just the way I paint sometimes. Sometimes I paint it, and I feel like when I put it on a downward angle, the way I have it like that, it affords a little more control for me. So you do whatever you need to do in order to get better control of your hand, to steady your hand, so this way you can paint more in a more controlled fashion. So, and that's one of my tips for today. Paint in a controlled fashion by steadying your hands. All right, seems simple, but a lot of people just forget about that. Like, I've forgotten about that a couple of times, actually. So, alright, so again, reinforcing Mephiston red, it's really important to get those purity seal thick. This is not the first coat, and this is not the third coat, it's the fourth coat, actually. I do more than just 2 thin coats. I realize that if you do multiple thin coats, that you don't get any brush strokes, that it just gradually gets defined. Also, I'm doing a gem on his knee as well, in the same kind of Mephiston red as a base coat. Now, this actually is a base color, so it's going to dry pretty dark. All right, next up, now what I'm doing is going over with bone white on the purity seal itself. Now, it's very tricky, guys, because you want to use bone white on the purity seal. I want to do anyway, to get like a little bit of like almost a coffee stain or like a dark parchment. But whenever I'm doing skulls or anything like that, I also use bone white. But I use Agrax Earthshade, I guess, to do bone, while I use Seraphon Sepia as a wash to do the purity seal, which changes it. Alrighty, so next up, Micron pen, one of my best friends, although I can do it with a brush, but I just find this more convenient. And what I'm doing is just doing little hashes, just little tiny hashes and dots, because the scale of this, if it was real writing, you wouldn't be able to see it anyway, so why bother? So I'm just doing little hashes, and you can see how just these little dots and hashes going straight across, no need to be perfect. Actually, the perfect word is a bad word in my opinion, because nothing is perfect in my opinion. Everything just deserves to get better. If you're perfect already, then you have nothing to learn, so what's the point, right? The point of my life is always learning something new every day. Every day I don't learn something new is a day I wasted, in my opinion. So I just keep that broad of aspect personally. And I hope if you do, that it works out very well for you as well. Alright, so getting that purity seal writing down, I've written a little bit on the second purity seal that's behind it, just a little bit. I'm going to zoom in here, see if I can focus in for you. There you go, you can see that I think that looks pretty cool. There you go, and look at all the detail that's going on. Alrighty, now time for shoulder pauldrons. I'm not crazy about painting yellow, so I airbrush this, and I'm using Averland Sunset as a base color for the shoulder pauldrons. I really like the way it comes out. It really has that yellow from Ragnar Black Manes Company. Perfect in my opinion. So that's why I use that. Alrighty, so next up, I'm going to use some Yriel yellow, and I'm just going to build up some highlights. And I think on this one, the airbrush kind of shot out on me a little bit. But that's okay. We fixed it up in the end anyway, so there you go. Just getting some color up, trying to build it up as best as we can. There it is. Nice. Alrighty, so we just got to blend in that little transition right there. With the Yriel yellow, and the idea here is that it's lighter where the sun is catching and then darker where the shadows and the recesses are. So trying to just think about where the light's going to hit it and just brighten up those areas, leaving the rest in shadow. Alrighty, so next up we have black, and that's right, I'm going to reinforce the black on the gun since I did do my base coat for the Space Wolves, and so that gun was blue, and I had to get it black again. And it's really important to, just pick out some pieces of the gun. It can't just be black. So I use some dark aluminum for Vallejo metal color. Again, just Vallejo metal color. This time is straight. It's not really mixed with anything because I'm going to use some inks to just vary the tone later on. It's important that when working with metallic paints that you be very, very careful. Other paints are really easy to erase mistakes. Metallics are not as forgiving. They are forgiving if you catch them quick enough, but if not, you're might be painting that over again. Alright, so going to the backpack itself and also going for that dark aluminum and going through the back. Just giving different variations of the color silver, which is essentially white. It actually adds variation to the eye. So if something is darker aluminum and then lighter aluminum in different areas, the eye kind of picks up on total variations and saying, wow, that must be metal because it's shining at different rates. And it's just that alchemy right there. Alright, time for some nun oil just to darken this up. This is just a messy, non-shiny gun. Las gun. There's that las cannon. I think it's a las cannon. Oh boy. In any case, I am trying to dark up the area, and nothing dulls down your metallic like nun oil. Unless you have, even the gloss one, it's not as glossy as I think. But I'm just, taking down that shine. Just is what I'm doing. And just hitting that up with nun oil. Whenever you want to take down the shine of your metallics, hit it with nun oil. It'll dull the poopsies out of it. I don't know if that's an actual word, but I just invented it. Alright, so Inktense Blue by Scale Color Intensity set. Great set. Love Intensity. It's so densely pigmented. I love it. I love using inks. And I, washed it down a little bit. And I'm just going to get that blue going into the recesses just to change it up. I wanted something a little different. So just trying to use it as a wash, kind of. And that actually has a gloss coat to it. So it's actually going to reflect back the metallic, and this part I do want to be shiny as opposed to the other ones where I was just dulling it out. Again, that variation adds some interest to the model and has your eyes looking around for more detail. Alrighty, time for the chest piece. As you can see, I have a lot of sub-assemblies going for that charred brown. That's right, going for gold on the chest, so time for charred brown. Now, most people are not going to be able to see this chest, but that doesn't matter to me. That never mattered to me. I just have to paint the model completely because that's me and that's how I do things. I look at it as an opportunity is that the more I paint these details, the better I get at it. So this is all practice anyway, so might as well do all the details. And if I ever, heavy blue gray for the stone, if I ever enter a competition, well, I gotta get used to painting everything because the judges will look at everything, even stuff behind it. So if that's one of my goals and aspirations, which this year, Mr. Vince Venturola told my friends actually that if I don't enter a model in this year's competition, that they should come into my place, go into my cabinet and steal a model to put into competition. Time for some Bootstrap Leather. I love Bootstrap Leather from P3. I think it's a great color, and I usually go back and forth with different colors, and there's just a cool blue. I mean, a cool brown. Sorry. It's a cool brown When I say cool, not cool in color because brown is a warm color, cool as in awesome, because when I pair it with Seraphon Sepia or Agrax Earthshade, it really just does come alive. Now, I haven't tried with some with some Reikland Fleshshade, so that may be something I want to do later down on the road. Again, I'm always experimenting on models, and I'm always using any kind of excuse to try some new combination or new thing that I haven't tried. In every model, I try one new thing. And there are so many new things that I want to try. It motivates me to continue painting and to continue getting better at painting. Alrighty, time to paint the little fiddly bits, aka the bone teeth. So trying to get that bone in there, in the bone. Trying to get that bone color onto the teeth. All right, so now time for the gluing process, and I do use Tamiya liquid cement. I don't want this sucker to fall off, and this will actually start melting the plastic onto the other piece of plastic so it doesn't move. And there it is. Oh, all that detail backed up into one place, knowing that at any point in time it can mess up and melt and get totally out of control, but that's okay. Hey, no risk, no glory, right? Alright, some white FW ink, but not just some white FW ink, some foundation white as well, mixed in with some Flowade, and you got yourself a good mixture for edge highlighting. So, if you want to edge highlight, I highly recommend you use that mixture right there. It doesn't have to be white as your primary color, but using the Flowade and using an ink as well helps, one, the actual opacity of the paint that you're using. It just ups the color and the vibrancy, and it also with the ink as a base, it just waters down the paint and gets it flowing a little bit, and then you add Flowade to that, and it just a little bit of paint will actually just flow right off your brush. Now, without the Flowade and without the ink, trying to just do it straight paint, even if you water it down, my paintbrush usually dries out so quickly, and it paints in batches and then skips and then batches and then skips. It just doesn't do it justice. If you have a ton of paneling to do or edge highlighting, I highly recommend some Flowade with your paint, and if possible, you have the ink color that goes with it. Use the ink color as well. It applies for the maximum contrast, the maximum coverage, the maximum amount of flow needed to continue doing panel lines and continue doing edge highlighting without it getting out of control on the way. Now, I do recommend you wick off the paint as you use it. Test it on something else as well to make sure it's flowing properly. All right, time for some decals. Not decals, decals. That's right. Micro Sol is your friend to put it together. Micro Set to finally pin it off, right? So we have Micro Sol and Micro Set. We just took it out of the water, and I'm doing Micro Sol right now, and really just softening up that decal so it can wrap around that shoulder. A lot of people don't like using decals, and again, decals, not decals, Mr. Venturella, not decals. Oh, I cringe. Okay, whoop, I knocked it out of place. And that's okay, because you see how it just flows, how that little decal just flows around the shoulder pad. That doesn't last forever, so be careful with that. But you can actually move your decal once you placed it on there. And once it's placed on there, you kind of want it to set exactly where you want it. I'm going to try to move that up just a little bit. I did it with my thumb, and again, it moves. That's great. Keep on messing around with it, though, it will break off. So you're limited with the amount of time you have to play with this. But I'm just showing you that it's possible to put the decal down, position it the way you want it, and then leave it to dry. But, you know, once it dries just a little bit, you're going to want to come in with the Micro Set, and you just want to dab the Micro Set right on top of there. This is how I do it again. It just really just makes it set into wherever it's going to set. and there you go, it's done, right? It gets all the edges and gets in the crooks and crevices, and there you go. I never had a problem with putting on decals, but it took me a long time and about 3,000 decals before I got it just about where I wanted it, and I'm no longer intimidated. I can even move it around and mess around with it if I wanted to. There you go. And I'm going to do another decal just to show you that it's not just that one decal that it works on. It works on any decal. That's right. I use a little bit of water bottle top, and I'm just recycling right there. Taking out of the water, and I'm using these metal pincers. Be careful with metal. It can rip your decal very quickly. So this is a little bit more methodology, but I just wanted to show you what I do with Q-tips as well. So let's get to it. All right, micro sole first, just to soften up the decal and put that on there. I'm just going to put that on the base, so this way we're squishing stuff over. Again, putting it on first allows you to move it around the miniature. You can do it with just water again, but you are risking some, rippage there, so be careful with that. So this is an uneven surface, and what the Microsol and Set does, Microsol and Set actually allows it, softens up the decal, so this way it allows it to conform to irregular surfaces. So it's exactly what you want on a rounded pauldron. However, if you have a really, really challenging surface, sometimes they actually tell you to take an X-Acto knife, cut the decal, and then actually fold one piece onto another, so this way the small seam overlapping you won't really notice. Now that takes a lot of bravery, but I have done it before. Now this was a little too hydrated, so I took a Q-tip, and here's a trick. When something is too hydrated, you take a Q-tip and just touch it. It'll soak up the water like it's nobody's business, because that kind of cotton material is made to soak up the water and made to soak up moisture. So getting in there dries it out super quick. It's the equivalent, in my opinion, as a hairdryer with paint when you want it to dry quickly. And if you didn't know about that technique, try using a small hairdryer when you want paint to dry quickly. Now, that being said, if it's like wash or anything like that, and that it's pooling in places, your hairdryer might just blow that wash out of the recesses, so be careful with that. But if it's just wet and just moist, that's right, I said it, moist. If it's just moist, then all you need to do is put a little hairdryer and dry it. Or the equivalent here, taking a Q-tip to a decal. Alrighty, so time for some micro set. Just getting some micro set, and that's usually the last part that I do to it. Put some micro set in there and try to get any air bubbles out or anything like that. And now that it's dry, it's not going to move around on you, so you can put this final step, well, not final step, but the second to final step on there. There is a third final step, if that's even possible. Sometimes you want to put some matte medium or some, what I did, I decanted some Tester's dull coat, and I'll put a video up here so you can see that. So if you like using dull coat, you can use it through an airbrush or through your a paintbrush. Just make sure if you're using it with a paintbrush that you're not using that paintbrush for anything else. Like dedicate a paintbrush just for the Tester's dull coat, because I don't know how it's really going to react with anything else. So better err on the side of safety. Now it doesn't have to be an expensive brush. Please don't use that. It can be a really inexpensive brush when you're using it. But if you don't have and haven't decanted dull coat yourself, that's fine. If you get some Liquitex matte medium, I actually transferred into this little bottle. Liquitex matte medium will also work to matte it down. Again, there's that Tester's dull coat that I actually decanted. Alright, so matte medium, that's where I'm going for this one. And I'm taking it, I put a little bit on the base of that corking right there, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to dab some on there. And what it does is, if there's any shine to the decal, and that's what a lot of people don't like, see, that's very glossy, it just takes it down. And sometimes you're going to need about 2 thin coats or more. It just depends. Just make sure they dry completely before you add on to the next coat, because you don't want to reactivate the decal and move it around and what have you. Just make sure if you're adding, just, put it on. You can put it on quite liberally because everything else is dull around in the miniature, so you're not going to hurt anything by putting on some Tester's dull coat. You may want to put a little bit of water, but not really a lot of water, just so you can have most of it. You see, I'm just taking it. It's a wet brush, but I'm using the dull coat just like that. And that's all there is to it when dulling down decals. There you go. I think every episode I try to show you a different technique from start to finish, and today's was decals. I should do some like, hobby tips just for that, but I don't know. I like painting a whole miniature and tell you how I did it. Now this is one of the hardest things ever. Really, putting on the 2 arms and connecting it to the gun so it looks right. For some reason, GW, your old sculpts like this are horrible when it comes to putting on the arms and connecting it to a gun. I mean, atrocious. Like, I have never seen such unprofessionalism when it comes to model building, like putting on the arms to these things and actually coming out right. That's because I had to green stuff a lot of the gaps and everything else. Oh my goodness gracious. Honestly, for this part here, I'm glad they went to Primaris, and I pray, because I haven't built any Primaris Marines just yet, that they have resolved this issue, because what a pain in the tuchus. That's right. Oy vey. I'll tell you. It is something else. Oh, excuse me. I have a little bit of a cold here, so I'm just trying to wrestle through this cold, but I still want to bring you content, so there you go. Man dedicated to the passion of hobbying. That's me, Mr. Passion. I always try to do that. And I hope the excitement at the beginning and the ends of the videos that you see is genuine. And I hope that it inspires you and it lifts up your spirits. So if you're feeling down, come on over to the miniatures paintbrush. It'll just make your day happy. Unlike this guy who I have to glue his shoulder on, which is not making me happy because it doesn't line up very well. And then the struggle is real with this thing. Oh my goodness. And then his hand wasn't there. And then I put it over here and it wanted to break off. And it was horrible. It was just bad experiences. Some days after putting on a gun held by 2 hands from these smaller Space Marines, I curl up in a ball in bed and I cry myself to sleep because I can't take it anymore. I just can't take it anymore. And after a while, I'm like, you know what? Forget this. I'm going to green stuff the pachungas out of this sucker. Alright, so just putting on some super glue over here. And especially since you spent so much time on your paint job, this is the part that, kind of kills you. Alright, go and get some zip kicker in there. Just putting it on there. Stay on there. Stay on there. Getting some zip kicker. Watch out with zip kicker. That stuff could kick your butt. Really, if you leave that stuff open, it's toxic. And if you happen to stand in front of the fumes, they'll burn yourself. I mean, ask Luke's from Luke's APS, man. He'll tell you it'll sting your eyes after a while. So you gotta close that every time. Close it every time. Do not let it get in the hands of little children because that is dangerous stuff. Okay, so anyway, the gun is on. See all the edge highlighting done on there? Love it, love it. Look at the blue and look at the color variation. You can see where it comes from. Here's one that's completed, and I actually did 2 of these guys. That's right. I didn't want to put you through the torture of actually seeing both of them. But now one is finished and one is not. You can see that I did that green lens over there. I'm going to show you how I did that as well. I'll also do that in this tutorial as well. Alrighty, but that comes later. Now I'm going to make sure the backpack adheres to the model. Here it goes. Dun, 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 dun. That's right, the model, it's done. Look at that. That's heck of cool, man. I gotta move it a little bit though. It's not straight and that would bother me. Go OCD. Man, I don't know. Is that straight? That is not straight. Alright. One way to tell it straight, you kind of try to even it out with the tailbone over there and see if that works out. Because, there you go. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Although the wires that connect from the actual backpack to the actual gun, there are usually gaps within that as well. Again, poor construction. Not well done, GW. Not well done, I have to say. I built Tamiya models, and the fit and finish is just perfect. So going from that to this, I guess I'm spoiled. But, yeah, this is for advanced modelers. Unquote, air quote, air bunnies. All right, anyway. Time to show you what that did with that lens. All right, got to start off with some flat green. Any dark green will do. I like flat green, so that works. And that's from Vallejo model color, flat green. And this is more of a military color. I just want to do that. You could use some olive drab if you want to, or whatever it is. Just getting that flat green in there as well. And then what I'm going to do is a triple threat, really. You start with a flat green and make sure there's enough coverage and going around. And you're going to start playing with colors. Like I like to wet blend as well. Notice how little bit of paint I'm putting on there and how little coverage I'm getting. That it's taking me multiple times to get over the coat. And that's get, you know, any kind of coverage. And that's okay because you want to build this up kind of slowly. And you want to take your time with it because it's a small thing. So it's not just bloop and done. It's, you know, it takes care in order for these little touches. And I think these little touches really do make the model. Like if you have, you know, if you really look carefully, you got to see all the touches that an artist does. Like whenever I look at a miniature, I am deconstructing it. I am saying, okay, what did they do to achieve this goal? I could see that they maybe airbrushed this, they wet blended that, they do this. There are a couple of pieces out there that just baffle me on how they accomplish some things, and that's good. That's good because I know that I can improve and one day get to that level of baffling other artists saying, oh my goodness, you know. So yeah, flat green, you can do flat red. Mephiston red works well if you want to do a red lens for a base. Any kind of color, if you have like a flat blue or a dark Prussian kind of blue as well, work for a blue lens if you want to do that, and that's what you want to start with. Of course, you're going to go to a lighter color next. And gotta try to like a little wet blend on there. If you're not comfortable with wet blend, you're gonna want to get yourself some slow drying stuff. Now, Liquitex does put some slow dry. Now it's time for the lighter color green, the Ecorpina Green. I do like that with some Glaze Medium. And what I'm doing is just gonna lightly bring up the color. I want to do a fade transition from that dark green to that bright green. And I'm gonna have the colors just like really light on top because the sun is kind of hitting that area right there, and it takes a while on both ends to get it that way. So just trying to play around with the color and just really lightly getting it over and blowing on it in between, so this way it would dry where I want it to dry very quickly. You can really overwhelm the first coat of dark green. You don't want to do that, so be very careful in doing that. But the worst case scenario, even if you're not careful, you could just go back with the darker green and start again. It's just a button, that's all it is. It's a button that you're painting to simulate a glass kind of effect, and you can go back and forth with the paint until you're happy. In fact, if you go back and forth with the paint, you actually get more experience painting small little buttons, and once you can do the first one, do the next 10. You know, every lens you see, try it. It's the only way you're gonna get good at it, because it's the only way I kind of started getting good at it. I don't know how good I am at it, but I like doing buttons. But every time like I see a plane on the interior, I will make every button a gem. I will try to make it a gemstone as much as I possibly can, and that is the ultimate practice, the repetition. Alrighty, so next up what we're going to do is foundation white. We're going to actually just put a little glimmer on light on the top, and then we're going to put a little line on the bottom just to saying, hey, the light enters here and then exits on the bottom, and that's it. There it is with the lenses. Now, I've done lenses before in other videos, but a lot of people are starting to ask me, hey man, how do you do lenses? So hey, might as well just do another one. I'm building another one. It's not like I'm not going to paint the lens, so hey, I just videotape it and edit it out and show you guys again. Not a problem. I think I did it with the Wolf Priest. You can check out the Wolf Priest up here if you want to see some lenses and me building another Space Wolf. Go for it. If you enjoy it. I love my Space Wolves, I'll tell you that. I love the Space Wolves. I love getting into Celestial Vindicators from Age of Sigmar. I was always into Legion of Nagash army. I do have to build Nagash. I'm building a lot of I'm building car models as well. I'm playing around with some of the effects. I did a rust effect model for a car, so I'm always playing around with different kind of things and different kind of concepts, and that's what I do to keep my mind busy, and so this way I don't have all the same content. But my Space Wolves, man, that's the center of my heart. That's my first full army, you know, so that's what I'm getting to. Actually, I'm still building up to 2,000 points and building all my models to this kind of scale. I mean, I call it above tabletop in my opinion. Some people call it tabletop, so everybody's tabletop is different. This is what I call tabletop, but everybody I know calls it above tabletop to show quality. Thanks. I don't see it, but hey, thanks. You know, but you know, I just want to lie. Everybody kind of likes it, so I figured I'd start up a channel and to show everybody what I do, and maybe that'll help somebody. All right, so we're getting close to the end. That's right, close to the end, because all we're doing is a little bit of eyes. Look at that. This is how I do the eyes. FW ink with foundation white, and just make sure that I test it on something, see how it's flowing before I do it. And just do a line. Notice how I stay dead still. And I position it so I can see what I'm doing, and that's how I do the white of the eyes. A lot of people have problems doing the white of the eyes. Dumb. Started off making the area around the eye dark. Hit it. You can hit it with some kind of wash or something like that. And then come in with this wipe. And always wick, always test before you do it. The other eye is tricky for me. It's always been, his right eyes are usually more tricky for me because I got to put the model upside down. And sometimes if I don't have it on a headstand like this, then it's a real problem. But there it is. I'm happy with it. Go in with a micron pen and do the eyeballs if you want to. You could use a very small brush to do the eyeballs as well. Some people do the eyeballs and do a little glimmer on the top right hand of the eye to make it really look stand out, and that's pretty amazing. You could do that as well, and it's up to you. But anything you do, you can always paint over. So if you mess up an eye, it's not that hard to put a little bit of wash in there, paint over the white, and try to do another dot. When you're doing eyes, you want to hit closer to the center of the nose. I know it may seem like they're crossing eyes, but the thing is the way the models are actually built, their heads are like a little, in my opinion, a little bit wider. So if you put it closer to the center of the nose, it looks like it's looking straight out. If you're putting in the middle of the eye in each way, it looks like they're like, you know, deer in headlights kind of caught and like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? Kind of look. And, you know, I don't know. Maybe that's not the look you want for, you know, a space warrior who's going to chop some baddie down. Oh my gosh, I'm going to chop this baddie down. You gotta watch it there. No, I'm kidding. Anyway. Macho man there. Listen, brother. All right. Anyway. So now I'm doing the stash. Since I have the foundation white and the ink, I think it's time for a little bit of edge highlighting. You can throw some flow-aid into that as well. Just gets the same edge highlighting that we did for the gun. We're going to do here as well. A lot of people, gray beards are intimidating. As long as it's like a grayish color and you hit it over with that white for the glimmering parts, it's not that bad. It's actually pretty easy, in my opinion. Remember, when you're doing heads, though, you want to do zenithal highlighting. That means you're coming up from the top down. That's right, from the top down. You paint the whole thing black. You got to hit a little bit of white from the top down right there. And then what you're going to do is glaze in some colors. So you could glaze in some grays and some reds and some blues, because the blood is blue underneath the surface of the skin, and then glaze it. Like, it's a whole multiple of colors, but essentially skin is orange. Skin is a variation of orange and different kind of things. Maybe a little more white in the orange, maybe a little more, you know, red in the orange to make it more tanned, or maybe some blue to make it more ghostly or sickly or dead. So it just depends. A little bit of white in there. There's a whole bunch of things going on with skin color, so you could really just glaze anything on in there. But since you already have the pre-shading, you're good to go. I mean, really, it's essential that you add variation to your skin in order to make it look realistic. A lot of people don't like painting heads because they don't know how to do a variation in the skin, and it's not as difficult as you may seem. A touch here, a dab there. You're going to have to make some decisions, though. You know, you need to make some decisions where the cold is going to go, where the warm is going to go, and everything else in between. Usually my Space Wolves, I kind of paint them a bit pale because the way I see it, they're on Fenris. That's an ice death world, so they're constantly being bombarded by winter. They're not really getting a lot of vitamin D with the sun. I think there's one day a year that they have their summer, and that one day it doesn't snow, and it's actually not freezing. It's cold, but it's not freezing. And not enough to melt all the snow or anything like that. Just enough for it not to be freezing. All right, next up I do a base, and a lot of people don't know how I actually put on the base. So what I'm going to do is, and I put together the miniature. That was the last step. So all I'm going to do is put some corking down. All right, I'm going to take the miniature off the stand. Now it's done. All right, there you go. And it's going to have a little bit of blue tack on it. And I take the blue tack and I just put it right on there, corking, and it can be any kind of corking you want. If If you want to look at a full base tutorial, I'll put it up here so you can see that as well. But the essential part is you're going to want to mark off where the feet's going to be, and then from there you can plan out the rest of your base. Alrighty, so I'm going to call this one to an end. I hope you like this tutorial, this painting tutorial. And, well, I'll show you the pictures of the finished product, and I will catch you on the outro. Thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate every moment we spend together. Well, there you have it. This Long Fang's Lazgunner is completely painted, and I want to thank my wife here for substituting my intro. Thought it was interesting, huh? Did you like that? Yeah, it was pretty cool. Well, if you like this video, like, share, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time
on the Miniatures Paintbrush.
That's how I loosen up my face.
Am I saying anything?
I mean, you can. I'll ask a question. Just let it be natural.
Your battery's dying.
When's the funeral?